Welcome back to another episode of Dentside Depot. Today we're going to be working on our 79 F350 Cummins swap truck, and we're going to be working on the front steering system today. Now, a problem with these lowboy trucks when you're talking F250, F350 is that the front steering arm is no longer remanufactured by Moog, and that makes it expensive and difficult to find the correct part. We're going to try upgrading today using a bar from Sky Manufacturing with offset tie rod ends that are also serviceable, so stay tuned. Let's see if we can get this to work right. Before we get into our steering setup today, let's just do a quick recap of where we are at this point with this particular project. It's been a while since I've done an update. We have a 12-valve Cummins engine that's going into this truck. I am almost done with the rebuild. We have a new head. Everything's been taken apart except for the bottom end. ARP studs, a bunch of goodies. I'm going to upgrade the P-pump, etc. For our transmission, we have an NV5600 new in the crate that's ready to go. And then our transfer case is still up in the air. We have a 271 and we also have a 241, both rebuilt, ready to go. I have a feeling the 271 is not going to fit because the engine's going to be centered. So we may be going with the 271 in this project, but either way, it doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. Our rear end is out of an 0102 Dodge Cummins truck with a manual, and that means it is the Dana 80 with factory disc brakes. I have rebuilt this rear end with all Yukon gear and axle equipment, and that is now dialed in and ready to go. Obviously, the pinion angle needs to be set and all the brackets will have to be welded on, but it's essentially ready for bolt up and welding. We have a Skyjacker Super Duty 4-inch lift with battle-borne brakes, rear hanger set. The frame's been stripped down and painted POR 15 gloss black. We have a Dana 60 Kingpin front end with a Skyjacker 4-inch lift. Auto World Conversions 12-valve Cummins swap bracket. Something you haven't seen yet on my channel is I made a custom bar for the front to re-square it to the correct 27 3/4 inside diameter. And then lastly, for the wheels, which you have also not seen yet, they're Detroit Steelies 18-inch, which of course BFG all-terrain TA tires, 35-inch overall. And that brings us to our next project on this truck, and that is the steering system. So the problem with the factory steering system is that the bar is non-serviceable on one end. So if your joint goes bad on this end like this one has, obviously the only way to fix it is to do one of two things: buy an all new one, which is expensive and difficult to do, or you can cut it off, thread it, and put a different end on it, which would also be difficult and expensive to do. So I came up with an idea. What if I use Sky Manufacturing's crossover tube for an OBS Ford with crossover steering? So I called them up. I had this tube made custom for this truck. It has GM HD 1-ton offset tie rod ends, and that'll hopefully make up the difference for the bump out in the factory bar so it'll fit and clear the front cover. I have not put it on yet, so I have no idea if it fits. We're going to find out together here in a second. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a tape on the bar that came off this truck so I can adjust the tie rod ends to what will hopefully be somewhat close for alignment purposes. Once I have that set up to go, then we'll pop it in and see if it fits. So you can see the tie rod kicks back, and the reason for that is it's so you can have a straight bar that also clears the front cover of the Dana 60. Okay, and I'm assuming this would probably work for a 44 as well. Probably be the same thing. All right. Other nice thing too is these are opposite threaded, so to adjust the tie rod, you could actually just spin the bar if you just needed to go out. So that's a pretty good feature too. All right, there's that. Tie rods certainly seem to fit good. So now we got Chevy and Dodge parts on the front. Okay, so I would say that there is plenty of clearance in the front. Of course, it'll reduce when you spin it left to right. So I'm going to tighten it down here and let's see what it looks like at full lock and make sure it actually fits. Okay, so I have it bolted in here. We have, first of all, the clearance to the pumpkin is perfect. There's plenty. I don't think that I have any issues with the stabilizer shocks in the front. I think it'll be perfect, but I did run into 2 issues. I can already tell just by visually looking at it that this bar that I have is too small. So I'm gonna have to get a new bar that's approximately 2 inches deeper, bigger. You can see there's way too much exposed thread at this point on the tie rod ends. It needs to be about 56 3/4, and there's probably about that much thread left in the bar, which clearly is not acceptable. So we're gonna have to get a bigger bar, but that's not a big deal. Other issue I ran into is the castle nut at the top. The pillars don't come down far enough, so you can't get the cotter pin in. Now I measured the taper on the GM tie rod, and it is actually slightly smaller than what the Ford one is. So there's no issue with it not meeting up at the knuckle. That's fine. It's just the castle nut needs to be deeper, so that the exposed eyelet goes down a little bit farther. Besides those 2 things, I think this setup's gonna work really well, and the nice thing is it's serviceable. So in the future, when you have a tie rod end that goes bad, you can just replace the tie rod end and not the $400 joint or the entire bar. And check this out. It's also way easier to align this. So I'm setting my alignment right now just by spinning the bar, kind of like you would on a more modern vehicle. So that's a huge advantage in addition to what I already spoke about. So not a big deal. I mean, this is how it goes. When you're building custom trucks, if you think every part that you get is going to fit together and fit on perfectly, you're absolutely kidding yourself. I don't care what anyone says. Every truck has issues when you're going through mock-up and everything else, but I think this setup's going to work great. We just got to get a longer bar. Sky Manufacturing sells those parts through their website. You can also find them on websites like Complete Performance, etc. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. I think this steering setup is going to work really well on our project here. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.